The Endeavour floated in the vast emptiness at the edge of the Milky Way. Its silver hull glimmered under the faint light of distant stars. Inside, the crew moved quietly, each member absorbed in their tasks. The ship was part of Earth's newest research program, exploring deep space where no human had gone before. Humans had long dreamed of finding life beyond their planet, but no one had expected what they would find that day. Lieutenant Arya Chen, the ship's communications officer, sat before the array of glowing screens. She sipped her coffee, eyes scanning lines of data scrolling across the main console. Suddenly, a strange pattern appeared, a signal unlike anything they had seen before. At first, it looked like a random burst of energy, but the rhythm, the way it pulsed, suggested intelligence. "Captain, you should see this," Arya said, her voice calm but tight with curiosity. Captain Malik Rourke, a tall man with streaks of gray in his hair, joined her. He leaned over the console. "Another star glitch?" he asked. "No," Arya replied. "It's repeating, regular intervals. I don't think it's natural. It's like someone is trying to communicate." The crew gathered around. Engineer Luis Vega adjusted his glasses, staring at the patterns. Could it be a code? Maybe an old probe signal? Science officer Dr. Nia Patel shook her head. "No probe could reach here. These coordinates are way outside our mapped regions." She frowned. "If this is a message, it's not meant for us or anyone we know." Captain Rourke leaned back in his chair, thinking, well, whoever sent it, they didn't expect humans to pick it up. But curiosity doesn't wait for permission. Arya's fingers danced over the console, recording and analyzing the data. The signal was complex. It used a form of frequency modulation she had never encountered. But the most astonishing part was the structure. It contained patterns of mathematics, art, and rhythm all woven together. It was as if the message was alive, carefully constructed to be understood by those capable of patience and thought. Could it be a trap? Luis asked, a note of fear in his voice. "We don't know who or what sent it." "Everything is a risk out here," Captain Rourke said, his eyes sharp. "But doing nothing guarantees we won't learn anything. Prepare a record of the signal. We'll send it to Earth and see if the experts can decode it." The human crew worked through the next hours, capturing the mysterious bursts of information. Meanwhile, the signal continued to pulse, silent yet urgent. Something in it spoke of danger, of desperation. Humans felt it instinctively, though they did not yet understand why. Back on Earth, the signal caused a storm of activity. Teams of scientists, linguists, and mathematicians worked around the clock, trying to make sense of the alien language. Patterns emerged slowly. Dr. Patel, assisting remotely, explained, "This isn't just a language. It's a system of thought. It combines mathematics, physics, and what seems like emotional expression." One pattern, repeated again and again, hinted at coordinates in deep space. The humans recognized them, not as a place of curiosity, but as a point of danger. The Valorians, a civilization unknown to humanity, were trapped inside a cluster of dying stars. Their technology was failing, and their message was a call for help. Captain Rourke's face tightened as he studied the decoded coordinates. If they're telling the truth, it's more than just a distress call. Entire systems could be at risk if we don't act. Luis rubbed his temples. "So we're supposed to trust a message from a species we've never met? Could be a trap. Could be a hoax. Or," Dr. Patel said quietly, "it could be a life we can save. A civilization we have the chance to help. And maybe no one else will. Humans are the ones who heard it." The crew sat in silence, contemplating the responsibility now placed in their hands. None of them had expected to become the first responders to an alien civilization's plea for help. Yet here, they were, humans, on the outer edge of their galaxy, facing a choice no other species might make. Meanwhile, the signal continued to pulse through space. Hidden in its silent rhythm were warnings of a threat no one could fully imagine, a cosmic storm, sentient and hungry, consuming everything in its path. The Valorians' message had not been intended for humans, but humans had heard it. A weak, Later, the Endeavour approached the first set of coordinates. The stars in this region shimmered oddly, not like the familiar constellations of the Milky Way. The crew observed flashes of energy far beyond normal cosmic activity. Arya checked the instruments again. These readings, they're enormous. The energy levels here are unstable, and there's movement, like something alive. Dr. Patel frowned. Alive? You mean like a storm? Yes, Arya said, almost whispering. And it's moving toward a star system. If it reaches there, everything could be destroyed. Captain Rourke took a deep breath. We came here because we listened. Now we have to act. We might not have the tools they do, but we have us, and that's more than enough to start. The crew began preparations. They set up shields, diagnostic instruments, and communication arrays. Humans worked differently from other species. They didn't rely solely on brute force or pre-programmed methods. They thought, adapted, and used imagination as a weapon. This would be their advantage. As they studied the readings, patterns began to emerge in the cosmic storm. It moved with purpose, almost like a mind directing chaos. Humans could see the subtle cues, pulses, shifts in energy, even pauses in the movement. Where others might panic, humans saw opportunity. Where others would flee, humans stayed, studying, learning, adapting. Luis leaned over a console. It's like it's trying to communicate with us, or at least responding to us. Maybe it senses our intention, Dr. Patel said. Humans are strange that way. Other species might not notice these subtle patterns, but we do. That's why we're here. Captain Rourke nodded. Keep observing. Record everything. The Valorian's message wasn't meant for us, but we heard it. That alone makes us different. That alone makes us capable. Days passed. The crew grew, closer as they studied the storm, sharing ideas, observations, and even doubts. They laughed in the mess hall, debated in the control room, and celebrated small victories when their calculations worked. It was not just science that guided them. It was humanity itself. Empathy, creativity, courage, and stubborn determination carried them forward. Then one night the storm shifted dramatically. Its energy spiked. Alarms rang across the Endeavour. Lights flashed red. Arya yelled, "Captain, it's moving faster!" Toward the system the Valorians marked in their signal. Rourke's jaw tightened. All right, this is it. Humans listen. Humans act. Let's see what we can do. The crew braced themselves. This was no longer observation. This was intervention. And humans, for the first time in a distant galaxy, would try to save a civilization they had never met, guided only by their ingenuity and the unheard message they had somehow received. The stars outside the viewport seemed brighter that night. As if the galaxy itself was holding its breath, humans were listening. And for the first time in a silent corner of space, listening was enough to change everything. Back on Earth, the atmosphere in the International Space Research Center was electric. Scientists from every corner of the globe gathered around glowing monitors, trying to make sense of the signal the Endeavour had received. What they faced was more than just a strange language. It was a puzzle unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Dr. Nia Patel sat at her console, fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. The signal's patterns had a strange beauty, a rhythm that seemed almost musical. It's not just math or language, she said to her colleague, Dr. Elias Morozov. It's a combination of logic, art, and emotion. Whoever sent this, they are brilliant, but they are desperate. Elias leaned closer, frowning. It's amazing. I've been decoding languages for 30 years, and nothing compares to this. Even if it's a distress signal, they clearly didn't want anyone outside their circle to understand it. Nia nodded. Which is why humans are the ones who heard it. Our minds, they think differently. We notice patterns others might miss. That's why they didn't count on us. Meanwhile, aboard the Endeavour, the crew worked tirelessly to analyze the data coming in from Earth. Arya Chen tapped her screen, eyes narrowing. They've started decoding parts of it, she said, but I think they're missing something important. The signal isn't just coordinates or a warning. There's a story hidden in it, a history, a plea. Captain Malik. Rourke crossed his arms. A history? Why would a civilization include history in a distress signal? Because, Dr. Patel explained, appearing on the screen via video call, they want us to understand them. They want us to know who they are before we try to help. There's more to saving a civilization than just stopping a disaster. We need context, culture, reasoning. That's why humans are suited for this mission. Other species might not care, or might not be able to understand. Luis Vega, the ship's engineer, rubbed his forehead. So we're doing more than science. We're reading a civilization's diary while also figuring out how to save them from a cosmic storm. That's exactly it, Arya said, her voice steady. Humans are capable of more than technology alone. We can empathize, we can create, we can improvise. That's what makes this possible. On Earth, Nia and her team made a breakthrough. They had finally deciphered a portion of the signal that revealed the Valorian's location. It was a star cluster on the brink of collapse, surrounded by energy fields too dangerous for most ships. The coordinates were precise, but the risk was astronomical. Dr. Patel tapped the screen. If we send a rescue mission, it will need more than shields and engines. It will need human problem-solving, adaptability, and creativity. Only humans can approach this problem in a way that the Valorians or any other species might not anticipate. Elias looked up from his terminal. You mean humans are uniquely qualified to help them? Yes, Nia said. We noticed patterns others would ignore. We see solutions in chaos. That's why the Valorians' message, though not intended for us, worked on humans. Captain Rourke leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Then it settled. We don't just follow coordinates, we learn, we adapt, and we act. That's what humans do best. The Endeavour prepared for the journey. Engineers upgraded the ship's shields, strengthened the engines, and installed instruments to measure unusual cosmic energies. But even with all the technology, the crew knew that the real challenge lay ahead, not in hardware, but in the unknown. During one long night, Arya studied the signal alone. She traced the patterns with her finger on the screen, feeling the rhythm in a way that was almost musical. Then, suddenly, she noticed something. The signal contained repetitions, subtle differences in pulse lengths and frequency. She leaned closer, her heart racing. It's a map, she whispered. Not just of location, but of paths. The Valorians are guiding us. They've hidden the safest routes through this dangerous cluster within the signal itself. They thought no one would notice, but we did. She called Captain Rourke immediately. Sir, I think I found a navigational guide hidden inside the signal. It's genius. They didn't expect anyone outside their species to decode it. Rourke studied the data, brow furrowed. Then we follow it carefully. One wrong move, and we could be trapped or destroyed. But if your intuition is right, this could be our only chance to reach them alive. As the Endeavour entered the outer rim of the cluster, the stars shifted strangely. Energy waves pulsed across space, painting the darkness in flashes of blue and green. The crew watched in awe. Other species might have turned back, but humans were fascinated. They analyzed, speculated, and adapted. Luis pointed at the readings. These waves, they're like a natural hazard, but they move with intention. Almost like the storm is alive, Arya nodded. Exactly, and we need to understand it. Humans are the only ones who might see the patterns in its behavior. Others might just see danger and panic. Captain Rourke spoke quietly. Then we observe. We record. We adapt. And we trust our instincts. That's humanity's advantage. For days, the crew charted the cluster's strange currents. The signal from the Valorians continued, guiding them with subtle cues. Each day they decoded a little more. Hints of the aliens' culture, glimpses of their homeworld, warnings of the storm's power, and pleas for help that no one else would hear. Dr. Patel appeared again on the comms. Humans are remarkable. You are seeing the world in ways the Valorians themselves couldn't predict. You notice patterns, anticipate movement, and innovate solutions on the spot. That's why the universe allowed you to intercept this message. You were chosen, not by fate, but by your nature. Luis leaned back in his chair. Chosen by our nature? That sounds like something out of a storybook. Maybe, Nia said with a smile. But it's true. Humans think differently. That's what makes this possible. That's what makes you capable of saving a civilization no one else could reach. The closer the Endeavor got to the heart of the cluster, the more dangerous the environment became. Radiation bursts flared unpredictably, gravitational waves twisted the ship's trajectory, and instruments flickered under extreme pressure. Yet the crew pressed on. They relied not only on their machines but on their reasoning, creativity, and courage. One evening, Arya detected a change in the signal. The Valorians, they're aware we're coming. The pattern is different now. It's urgent. Captain Rourke looked at the screen. Urgent how? It's a warning, she said. The storm is closer. Their civilization is in immediate danger. They're counting on us to act quickly. Louis swallowed hard. And we have no idea if we can. Rourke's voice was firm. We don't have the option to fail. Humans are the only species here who could notice, interpret, and respond to this signal. That's why it came to us. That's why we are here. As the ship moved deeper into the cluster, the energy patterns became clearer. They weren't random. They were signals, indicators, and pathways. The humans followed them, careful but confident. Every obstacle tested their creativity and teamwork. Every hazard demanded more than just technology. It demanded human intuition and adaptability. Finally, they saw the Valorians' world. It was a planet bathed in a pale, eerie glow, surrounded by unstable stars. Energy currents crackled above its surface. The planet's atmosphere shimmered with turbulence, and massive structures, clearly alien, stood defiant against the approaching storm. Arya's voice trembled with awe. They're real. They're alive. And they need us. Rourke took a deep breath. This is where humans make a difference. Others might see chaos and retreat. We see patterns, we see opportunity, and we act. Let's get ready. The real challenge begins now. As the Endeavor hovered near the planet, the crew felt something profound. They were the first humans to hear a message that was never meant for them. They were the first to respond. And that alone was enough to set the stage for a rescue no one else could achieve. In the darkness of the distant cluster, a silent promise pulsed across space. Humanity had arrived, and the fate of a civilization rested in their hands. The Endeavor drifted through the strange, glowing currents surrounding the Valorians' planet. Every light, every pulse, seemed alive, as if the universe itself was aware of their presence. The crew felt the weight of responsibility in their bones. They were humans, the first to intercept a message that was never meant for them, the first to try and save an entire alien civilization. Lieutenant Arya Chen stared at the swirling lights outside the viewport. These currents, they're not just dangerous, she said. They're intelligent, they move in patterns. If we can read them correctly, we can navigate safely. But one mistake. She didn't finish the sentence. The thought was too chilling. Engineer Luis Vega leaned over the console, hands flying across buttons. One mistake, and we could be shredded by radiation or pulled into a gravity well. This isn't like any simulation. These are real hazards, and they're alive. Captain Malik Rourke's voice cut through the tension. Humans aren't just observers. We adapt, we improvise. Other species might flee, but we analyze, we calculate, and we act. That's why we're here. Keep focused. Every pulse is a clue. Science. Officer Dr. Nia Patel pointed to a set of blinking indicators. See those patterns? They're like a code within the currents. The Valorians' message included instructions for this exact situation. They expected someone clever enough to follow it. That's us. Luis whistled. Clever enough? We're human enough, I hope. Arya smiled. Being human is enough. We notice details others overlook. We make leaps of imagination. That's why we're the ones standing here. The crew worked in shifts, monitoring energy fluctuations, adjusting shields, and piloting the Endeavor through currents that twisted like living serpents. Days passed, and the closer they got to the planet, the more violent the cosmic environment became. Massive plasma waves surged unpredictably, and bursts of radiation lit the void like distant fireworks. Then, the ship's sensors detected something new, a series of structures orbiting the planet. They were massive, geometric, and clearly artificial. The Valorians built these, Dr. Patel said, awe in her voice. Defensive structures may be energy collectors. They're surviving in a system most civilizations would abandon. Luis frowned. So we have to navigate not only the storm and the currents, but these massive alien constructs? Rourke nodded. Exactly, and that's why humans are unique. We don't just react. We think, we plan, we improvise. Let's find a path. As the Endeavor moved closer, the structures emitted bursts of energy that lit the ship's hull in eerie colors. The crew realized the Valorians' defenses were automatic, designed to protect the planet from the storm. But humans noticed something no alien system could account for. The patterns in the energy bursts had gaps, pauses, almost like an invitation. To navigate through carefully, Arya's fingers flew across the console. I can read this. We can pass through safely if we time it right. Luis grinned nervously. Or die spectacularly if we mess up. Either way, memorable. Captain Rourke's voice was firm. We do this together. Timing, observation, courage. That's human strength. Let's move. They navigated the labyrinth of energy bursts and alien structures, following the subtle hints hidden in the currents and the Valorians' message. Every adjustment in trajectory, every calculated maneuver, felt like threading a needle in a hurricane. The crew worked in perfect synchronization, relying on their instincts as much as their instruments. Hours passed. The Endeavor was battered by gravitational turbulence, its hull creaking under the strain, but it advanced steadily. Arya noticed something unusual, a faint signal overlapping the storm's patterns. She leaned closer. The storm itself is sending signals. I think it's responding to us. Dr. Patel's eyes widened. Responding? It's intelligent? Not like the Valorians, Arya said. But it senses our presence, it reacts to our movements, that's why timing is everything. Luis shook his head in disbelief. So we're talking to a storm now? Great. Humans really do get the weirdest missions. Rourke didn't laugh. We're not talking to it. We're reading it. And that's enough. Humans can do this because we think in ways the storm can't predict. The closer they got to the planet, the storm intensified. Towering waves of energy surged toward the orbital structures, and the Endeavor was caught in the chaos. Alarms blared, shields strained. The ship rocked violently. Brace yourselves, Rourke shouted. We're going to thread this storm. Arya adjusted the ship's trajectory, following subtle pulses in the storm's movement. Luis rerouted, energy to shields holding them at maximum. Dr. Patel calculated angles and speeds with rapid precision. Every human skill, intuition, creativity, courage was tested to its limit. Suddenly, a massive energy wave struck the ship. The hull shuddered violently, and the lights flickered. But instead of panicking, the crew adapted. They used the storm's momentum to slingshot the Endeavor closer to the planet. Luis laughed, breathless. We just use the storm against itself. Humans are ridiculous sometimes, aren't we? Rourke allowed a brief smile. And that's why we survive. As they emerged from the storm's core, the planet came into full view. Its surface was a blend of natural beauty and technological marvel. Towering crystalline structures reflected the dim light of dying stars, while massive domes and energy fields dotted the landscape. The planet seemed alive with energy, yet fragile under the storm's approach. Arya spoke softly. They built all this, and they're still alive. Despite everything, they survived. They waited for someone to notice their message. Dr. Patel nodded. And that someone is us, Humans. Because we listen. Because we act. Because we see patterns no one else does. The crew prepared for the final descent. The Valorian structures emitted a faint energy signature, almost like a welcome signal. But it was unclear whether they would accept human help or see them as another threat. Rourke's voice was steady. Remember, we're not invaders. We're helpers. Our actions will determine if this civilization survives. As the Endeavour entered the planet's atmosphere, turbulence tore at the ship. Gusts of charged air pushed against the hull, and the energy from the planet's defense systems lit up the sky like lightning. But humans adapted. They adjusted shields, recalibrated engines, and followed the subtle guidance hidden in the Valorian's message. Luis grinned despite the tension. I can't believe we're doing this. Only humans could think fast enough to survive this descent. Arya smiled faintly. That's the point. We notice what others ignore. We improvise. We act. Finally, the ship landed on a plateau near one of the largest crystalline structures. The ground trembled under residual energy currents, but the Endeavour remained intact. Outside, the alien structures shimmered, and faint figures moved inside the crystalline domes. The Valorians were real, and they were watching. Dr. Patel's voice cracked with awe. We made it. We're here. They're alive. And they can see, Captain Rourke nodded. We've done what others might have thought impossible. Now the real challenge begins, earning their trust and helping them survive. And humans. We were born for this. As the crew stepped onto the alien surface, the energy of the planet hummed beneath their feet. The storm still raged, the cosmic current still twisted around them, but for the first time, humans stood as the bridge between survival and annihilation. They were not just visitors, they were the difference. The Valorians watched in silence. Their civilization had endured unimaginable challenges, but no one, not even the most brilliant of their kind, had anticipated human ingenuity, empathy, and courage, and that alone might save them all. The crew of the Endeavour moved forward, guided by curiosity, morality, and human determination. Each step was dangerous, yet full of purpose. Each action relied on their unique abilities, creativity, problem-solving, and compassion. In the distance, the storm continued its relentless advance, but humans were ready. Humans had listened. Humans had acted. And in a universe full of uncertainty, that made all the difference. The Valorian's planet lay in a strange, eerie glow. The structures shimmered like crystals under the dim light of dying stars, and the air hummed with energy. The storm outside roared like a living beast, moving with terrifying intelligence across space. It had already consumed countless worlds, and now it was closing in on the Valorians. Captain Malik Rourke stood at the top of the landing ramp, watching the alien figures move cautiously among their crystalline buildings. We're here, he said softly, and we're the only ones who can make a difference. Lieutenant Arya Chen nodded. They didn't expect us, but maybe that's why we can help. Humans notice things others miss. We see patterns. We improvise. Luis Vega adjusted his toolkit nervously. Improvise? I hope you know what that means here. We're not just in another storm. We're facing something alive. Science Officer Dr. Nia Patel examined the readings on her portable device. The HFY storm isn't just energy, it's intelligent. It senses movement, calculates outcomes, reacts. Most species would panic. Humans, we adapt. That's why we were able to reach this planet. The Valorians emerged from their structures slowly, observing the humans. They were tall, slender beings with translucent skin that shimmered faintly. Their eyes were large and expressive, filled with fear, curiosity, and cautious hope. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a series of tones that humans could barely comprehend. Arya activated the universal translator. We come to help, she said carefully. We received your message. We heard you. The lead Valorian tilted its head, studying the humans. After a long moment, it responded in broken, halting speech. You hear, not meant, heard. You help? Rourke stepped forward. Yes, we can help. We don't know exactly how yet, but we'll work with you. Together, We can stop the storm. The Valorians exchanged nervous glances. Their trust had been earned slowly through the humans' willingness to arrive, to listen, and to act. Finally, the lead Valorian gestured toward a massive crystalline tower pulsing with energy. Inside, plan, stop storm, danger. Arya led the crew inside. The tower hummed with energy, its walls shifting with light and color as if alive. Screens and devices pulsed with information, too advanced for humans to understand at first glance. But humans had something the Valorians did not expect: intuition, creativity, and the courage to try. Luis leaned over a console. I can't read any of this, but maybe I don't need to. Let me try something. He started pressing buttons, connecting devices, rerouting energy flows. Lights flickered, panels shifted, and a new pattern emerged, a way to stabilize part of the planet's energy field. Dr. Patel smiled. You see? That's human thinking. Others follow rules. Humans improvise, notice gaps, and create solutions, on the spot. Arya tapped into the storm's readings. It's reacting to us already. It senses the energy we're stabilizing. We can guide it, if we're clever. The lead Valorian tilted its head. Storm. Alive. Cannot fight. Must guide. Rourke nodded. Then we guide it. We don't fight. We understand it. We anticipate it. That's what humans do. Outside, the storm raged. Massive arcs of energy twisted and danced, consuming smaller fields, destroying distant satellites, and sending waves across the planet's atmosphere. It was alive, aware, and relentless, but humans didn't panic. They studied it, looking for patterns, reading its pulses, and noting its reactions to the changes they made in the planet's defenses. Arya spoke quickly. The storm reacts to force and to structure. It moves around energy like water flows, around rocks. If we create the right path, we can redirect it. Luis adjusted the energy channels. So we make a path, like a riverbed, and the storm follows it. Exactly, Arya said. And we have the tools to do it. We just have to be smart, careful, and fast. The Valorians watched in awe as humans worked. Where the aliens had followed strict protocols, humans improvised, combining intuition with technology. They created new connections, rerouted energy, and tested patterns on the fly. Slowly, the storm began to react. It twisted around the stabilizers humans had created, moving in a way that was no longer chaotic. Dr. Patel laughed softly. Humans do what others cannot. We see order in chaos. We create solutions no one else can imagine. Rourke spoke to the Valorians. Your civilization is amazing, but you have to trust humans now. We will guide the storm. Follow our instructions. It's dangerous, but we can do this together. The lead Valorian nodded, eyes wide with hope. Trust. Humans. Help. Survive. Hours passed. The crew worked tirelessly. The storm surged and recoiled, testing their methods, but humans adapted. They moved faster, improvised more, and relied on subtle cues that only they could notice. One miscalculation could destroy the planet, yet every adjustment, every human decision moved the storm away from the surface. Arya's hands flew over the controls. I can see it. We're controlling its flow. It's working. Luis cheered. Humans are ridiculous, but it's genius. The storm howled in energy, testing their patience, but humans stayed focused. They weren't trying to conquer it. They weren't trying to destroy it. They were guiding it, using intelligence, intuition, and creativity, the very qualities that made humanity remarkable. Dr. Patel watched the readings. It's responding to intention, not force. Only humans would think to use empathy and logic together like this. Rourke took a deep breath. We've come this far because we noticed details others would miss, because we adapted, because we acted when no one else would. Keep going. Finally, after a tense and exhausting effort, the storm's core shifted. Its massive energy flows redirected into a safe path through space, bypassing the planet entirely. The violent arcs of energy calmed. The currents outside settled into a predictable rhythm. Luis exhaled, collapsing into his chair. We did it. We actually did it. Arya smiled, eyes shining. We guided it. Not with weapons, not with brute force, but with thought, observation, and courage. That's human strength. The Valorian stepped forward, approaching the humans cautiously. The lead Valorian's voice trembled with emotion. Humans. Saved. Us. Not expected. Impossible. You did. Rourke nodded, keeping his voice calm. We didn't do it alone. We listened. We adapted. And we acted. That's what humans do. That's why you sent your message, and that's why we heard it. Luis whispered to Arya. You think they understand just how amazing humans are? Arya smiled. They understand. They had to. And now they've seen what humans can do when we care, when we act, when we refuse to give up. The storm, once a destructive force beyond comprehension, now flowed safely away from the planet. The Valorians' world, fragile but resilient, had survived. And humans had shown, once again, that their creativity, courage, and compassion could rise to challenges no one else could face. Outside, the stars seemed brighter. The currents shimmered gently, no longer threatening. The universe had tested humans, and humans had answered. They had saved a civilization, not by might, but by thought, by empathy, and by ingenuity. Captain Rourke looked at his crew. We've done the impossible because we are human. We listen, we think, we act. That's who we are. The lead Valorian approached one last time, extending a glowing hand. Arya took it, feeling the energy hum through her fingers. We thank you, it said. Humans, heroes, universe changed. Luis muttered, half to himself. Not bad for humans, huh? Dr. Patel smiled. Not bad at all. We were chosen not because of strength, not because of technology, but because of who we are. And we made a difference. As the crew of the Endeavor prepared to return to their ship, the Valorians watched with awe and gratitude. The storm was gone, the planet safe, and the humans, strangers from a distant world, had become the unlikely heroes of an entire civilization. For the first time, the Valorians realized that the universe was not only vast and dangerous, but also full of unexpected hope. Humans with their curiosity, empathy, and ingenuity were that hope. And as the Endeavor lifted from the planet's surface, the crew felt a quiet pride. They had faced the unimaginable, navigated the impossible, and shown that humanity was capable of greatness beyond technology, beyond power, beyond expectation. They had proven once more that humans could rise to challenges no one else could meet. The Endeavor lifted smoothly from the Valorians' planet, its engines humming with quiet determination. Outside, the stars shimmered with renewed brilliance, as if the universe itself was acknowledging what had just happened. The storm that had threatened entire star systems now flowed safely away, guided not by brute force but by human ingenuity. Captain Malik Rourke sat at the helm, watching the alien world fade behind them. We've done it, he said quietly. We actually did it. Lieutenant Arya Chen smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of distant stars. We didn't just survive. We helped a civilization that no one else even knew existed. And we did it our way, by noticing what others might miss, by thinking differently, and by trusting ourselves. Luis Vega leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. And the Valorians actually listened to us, can you imagine? A species that advanced couldn't have done what we just did. Only humans could. Science Officer Dr. Nia Patel nodded. It's not just technology, it's us. Humans combine creativity, courage, and morality in a way no other species can. That's why we were chosen to hear their message. That's why we succeeded where others might have failed. The crew spent the next hours documenting everything they had learned. Data from the storm, energy patterns from the planet, and observations of the Valorian structures. All of it was recorded, analyzed, and stored. But even as they worked, a deeper truth settled over them. This mission had proven something profound about humanity. They were more than explorers. They were listeners, thinkers, and problem solvers. They were capable of feats others could not imagine. Back on the planet, the Valorians gathered in their crystalline city. Their leader, still glowing faintly from energy flowing through their body, spoke to the assembly. Humans. They did what we thought impossible. They saw our message, understood it, and acted. They saved our world when no one else could. We owe them everything. One of the younger Valorians tilted its head. They were different. Not like us. They made mistakes, but they learned. They risked themselves. And they listened. The lead Valorian nodded. That is why they succeeded. That is why humans are remarkable. Meanwhile, aboard the Endeavor, the crew prepared for the journey home. They had accomplished something historic. They had answered a call that was never meant for them, navigated dangers no one else could, and saved an entire civilization. Yet they felt no pride in the way of arrogance. Instead, there was quiet satisfaction, a deep understanding that humans had done what humans do best: adapt, innovate, and act with heart. Arya tapped the console, reviewing the data one last time. They're already stabilizing their energy systems. The storm won't reach them again. And the patterns we learned from the storm, they could help other worlds someday. Luis laughed softly. So humans not only saved a civilization, but we might be able to save more in the future. Figures, right? Rourke shook his head, smiling. Humans never stop. That's our strength. That's why we were able to hear their message and act when no one else could. Hours later, the Endeavor entered normal space, leaving the Valorians cluster behind. But even as they left, a subtle energy wave pulsed across the void. A quiet acknowledgement. A message of thanks, almost like a heartbeat. Humans had been recognized in a way no other species had been before, not through conquest or power, but through understanding and action. Dr. Patel looked out the window at the stars. The universe is bigger than we imagined, but this proves something. Humanity can make a difference. Even where others might fail, we can succeed. Luis leaned back in his chair, tired but content. Humans always think they're small, don't they? But we just saved a civilization no one else even knew existed. We're bigger than we think. Arya nodded. And it didn't take weapons or machines alone. It took observation, imagination, courage, and empathy. That's the lesson. That's what makes humans human. Captain Rourke allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. We answered a call we weren't meant to hear. We stepped into danger no one expected us to face. And we survived. More than that, we succeeded. That's humanity in action. That's why we matter. On the Valorians' planet, life slowly returned to a rhythm of calm. The crystalline towers pulsed gently. Energy flows stabilized, and the once panicked citizens moved through their city with cautious relief. They spoke of the humans who had appeared from the stars, strangers who understood their plight and who acted when no one else could. The young Valorians learned from the humans' approach, how to observe, adapt, and innovate without fear. The elders spoke of courage and creativity, the qualities that had allowed humanity to succeed where others might have faltered. For generations to come, the Valorians would remember this lesson. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected sources, and intelligence alone is not enough. It must be paired with empathy and action. A quiet wave of energy pulsed across the cluster as the human ship disappeared from view. It was almost as if the planet itself had acknowledged the arrival of something extraordinary. Humanity had not only saved the Valorians, they had changed the course of history for that civilization. On board the Endeavor, the crew celebrated in small, understated ways. There were smiles, quiet laughter, and shared glances of relief. Each of them understood that this mission had been different from any other. It was more than science, more than exploration. It was a test of human potential, and they had passed. Arya looked around at her team. We've done something incredible, not just surviving, but saving lives. And we did it the only way humans can, by seeing what others cannot, by acting when others hesitate, and by caring when others might ignore the need. Luis raised a cup of recycled coffee. To humans, weird, stubborn, unpredictable, and apparently heroic. Dr. Patel laughed. Heroic because we listen, because we think, because we act. Not because we dominate, not because we conquer. That's what makes humans special. Captain Rourke nodded, raising his own cup. To humans, may we never forget that our greatest power is not technology or weapons or speed, it's us. It's our mind, our courage, our heart. As the Endeavour made its way back toward Earth, the crew reflected on the journey. They had crossed uncharted space, faced a sentient cosmic storm, and guided a civilization from the brink of destruction. They had proven something that would echo far beyond their mission. Humans are remarkable, not just because of what they build, but because of how they think, feel, and act when it matters most. And somewhere in the distant stars, the Valorians looked up at the sky, feeling the faint pulse of humans' presence. A silent message of gratitude passed through the cosmos. Their civilization had survived. They had hope for the future. And they had learned something essential. Humans, for all their flaws and unpredictability, were extraordinary allies. The universe is vast, full of wonders and dangers beyond imagining. Yet in one quiet corner, humans had arrived, listened, acted, and saved a civilization. They had done what no one else could. They had proved that courage, creativity, and compassion could overcome the impossible.